Good morning. Welcome to Coffee Talk with Heidi. I am so glad to have you with me today as we are now just a couple weeks from Easter. We've got 2 weeks left in Lent and our Sabbath experiment. And I am so excited to celebrate Easter. I am looking forward to that. But I'm going to continue with the habits of Sabbath. I'm really going to try to maintain this as part of my life with God because it has been so good. And it's been so challenging also. And I'll share with you some of my challenges in the video on Thursday. But today I want to talk about our next spiritual theme, our freedom theme. And the theme for this week is that Sabbath means you are free to linger. And by that I mean you are free to spend time in your deep thoughts with God. Now, I know that as a parent, it is really hard for me to find time to linger and have deep thoughts, but it's so necessary to my soul. And I'm thankful for my husband who will at times say, do not bother mom. She's in her room with the door closed. Maybe I can still hear people, but I have permission to linger with God for a little bit or linger with my own thoughts. And maybe it's hard for you to find time to linger. Maybe not. I'd love to hear your tips if you want to leave me a comment of how you find time to linger in your deep thoughts. This Sunday, this Sabbath is Palm Sunday. It is the beginning of Holy Week. Palm Sunday was a time of great celebration, but it leads into a time of the crucifixion, the week of the crucifixion. And now the cross is something that I have spent a lot more time thinking about than most people. For several years, I was in charge of our church's Good Friday service, our Good Friday experience. And that is so much about looking at the cross and what it is actually that Jesus did and kind of entering into the sadness and the grief of that moment when Jesus was on the cross. And I really believe that as hard as it is to enter the grief of the day of crucifixion, it is so necessary to enter into that grief in order to really and fully experience the joy that is Resurrection Day. And so I want to invite you into a period of grief, and I want to give you permission this weekend to linger a little bit, to linger on the deep thoughts and to think about the grief that is in your own life. And this might be done through silence or through taking a walk in creation or by doing a creative activity or all these things that we've been talking about the last few weeks of ways that Sabbath gives us time to be free to experience God in different ways. But whatever method you choose, I invite you and I give you permission to experience grief and to talk to God about the hard things. This might be a hurt that you've experienced, an interpersonal hurt. It could be an element of physical pain. It could be just something of darkness or rejection or just hard, awful things that have happened to you. What you're just sad about. Maybe you're experiencing some depression coming out of COVID. A lot of people are experiencing depression and grief. And I give you permission, and God gives you permission, and Sabbath gives you permission to spend some time thinking those hard thoughts with God. And in Psalm 22, we see that even Jesus entered into and expressed his hard thoughts with God. We see him in the Garden of Gethsemane before his crucifixion. He's praying and saying, God, if there is any way that we can skip this part, if there's any other way we can do this, I am all for it. He did not want to go through that. Maybe the tunnel that you're looking at is something hard that you know you have to do. And Jesus had to do a really hard thing. But the other thing is maybe there's something of grief and pain that you are experiencing right now. And Jesus spoke to that in Psalm 22. It's his famous words from the cross where he says, my God, why have you forsaken me? He was quoting there Psalm 22. And I do not for a moment believe that God actually forsakes us. I do not believe that God leaves us alone in our darkest moments of pain. And I don't think that Jesus thought that was his actual reality, that God had actually forsaken him. But I do believe this was Jesus's emotional reality in that moment, that in his human nature, in his physical pain, he felt completely and utterly forsaken at that time. And there are times when we also cannot see God in our situations and feel forsaken. But I also know that if you continue on and read Psalm 22, that it comes back around to saying, okay, God, you've been faithful. Like, this is awful right now, but I'm trusting in your nature. I'm trusting in your faithfulness. And I know that I'm going to get to a place of rejoicing. And I think that's our invitation as well, that we have permission to say, God, this is more awful than I could have ever imagined, but I know that you're with me. And trusting God to walk you through and carry you through. And there's something so healing when we just take a moment and say, this is my grief and I'm expressing it. Psalm 13 gives a great model for how to lament, how to express your grief with God, and maybe write your own lament. That is a free thing in my guide, the Sabbath Experiment guide, which you can sign up for through my website. I will email that to you. But that's the invitation this week on Sabbath. You have permission to linger. You are free to linger, and you are free to express all your hard thoughts to God this week. And I'm inviting you to do that so that you can get it out, go through an experience of grief with God in order to get to the true hope and joy that is Resurrection Day. So here's the challenge for the week. Ask God, is there a tunnel that you want me to walk through with you? Maybe you already know what the tunnel is and you just didn't know if God wanted to go there with you. Well, he does. So what is the tunnel? Or is there an invitation from God for you to sort of re-enter a hard thing that you haven't fully processed yet? And then the second challenge for the week is ask God, is there a sacred partnership that he is inviting you into in order for you to have a sacred transformation in your life? And often writing down, expressing in some way those hard emotions is a way that you can get through to the joy on the other side. I believe that the Sabbath gift for you is joy, it's freedom, but sometimes to get to that joy and freedom, we have to go through the hard points and the tunnels of life and enter into the grief and just express freely, God, I feel forsaken, and yet I'm choosing to hope and walk with you through this tunnel. So please leave a comment, leave a question. I'd love to hear how you're experiencing this, and sign up. I'd love to email you that free guide for how to write your own lament. So go think on this, ask God those questions, and I will check back in with you on Thursday. Have a great day.